Welcome back to Under Oath. Today we have actor, singer, and musician Corey Feldman. Corey, can you hear me?
Hello there.
Hey, we just busted out your new song. You know, it feels like a little bit like the Beatles. Reminds me of that.
Well, thank you. That was definitely the intention. It's inspired by the Beatles and kind of a tribute to the Beatles, really, as well as kind of a tribute to the fans for having me in their hearts and homes for 50 years now. This is my 50th year in entertainment, and the beginning of the 50th year. It'll go on all year long. But yes, I started actually auditioning at 3.5 years old. My first job was at 4 years old. And my birthday's coming up, so it'll really kick in the 50th anniversary probably around my birthday.
Now, a lot of people think that the average actor just gets into music, afterwards. But I mean, your dad was a musician, right?
Well, yeah, actually, a lot of people don't know this, but I started my career off as a singer, not as an actor. And the way that worked was, when you're 3.5 years old, you can't really look at a script and memorize it. You can't read lines yet. You're not taught how to read until 4 or 5. So, how do you make a 3.5-year-old kid get an audition? You can't really go in and deliver it. So what my mom thought up was, hey, my husband's a singer. My daughter is in the Mickey Mouse Club and she sings and dances every day. So what better way to show off a kid's cute than get him to memorize songs and sing? So she would put me in a room with a record player and say, you're not coming out until you have this song memorized backwards and forwards. And I'd come out and I'd perform it for her or for them. And then once it was good enough, then I would start going on auditions and singing the songs that I was taught. So there would be 3 or 4 that I would rotate between. They were cute little, contemporary pop songs or whatever. And that was how I got my parts. And ironically, the first real job that I had was in a musical, television musical special, which was actually a Dick Van Dyke hosted event called How to Eat Like a Child, where we did song and dance numbers on live television. So yes, my career started with music, and here we are 50 years later and still doing music.
I think about that. I think about all the roles you've played in iconic issues, whether it be Goonies, License to Drive, Dream a Little Dream. I mean, so many people know you for that, but very few people know that you were inspired by a lot of ridiculous musicians. I mean, the King of Pop. I mean, you had access to Michael Jackson. I mean, that seems crazy.
Right? Not just access, but we spent a good deal of time together. I was lucky enough to watch him work in the studio. I was on the set of many of his popular videos. I visited the Smooth Criminal short film set, I think 7 times. I was on the video set for Liberian Girl because I was in the movie, or in the short film, I should say. I was on the set of The Way You Make Me Feel. I was on the set of In the Closet. So yeah, I was very fortunate to be on the video sets. I was in the recording studio with him. I got to watch him work. I got to be in the rehearsal spaces with him, watching him rehearse. We got to dance together. I mean, we had a lot of fun.
Now, when you watch somebody like that, Michael, he learned from, some fantastic people before him. I mean,
Right.
Did you ever sit there and just go, God, I want that. I want to do that. I like how he did that.
Of course. That's what started my career in being a pop artist. So, yes, I was into music early. Yes, I was singing for my auditions and doing song and dance. But my mom had put me in dance class and it was tap, and I failed miserably because I hated it. I was so bored. And then she had me take piano and vocal lessons once or twice, and I hated that. It was just, I had no interest in it until I saw Michael perform on Motown 25. And then I said, that's what I want. I want to do that. But the Beatles was always a big inspiration for me because my sister actually was in the Mickey Mouse Club, and they were performing live at Disneyland and Disney World every summer. And as part of their act, they would do Sgt. Pepper's songs as part, because it was the early 70s, and that was still very popular at that time. So they would do songs from Sgt. Pepper's. And my dad, ironically, was a bass player and singer. So there was a lot of connections in that way to the Beatles and Paul McCartney and all that stuff. So it was always there in my life. It was always part of my influence. And as I got older, I believe it just kind of was inherently, built into me as I grew and progressed. And so it was always there. There was always this kind of thought process that aligned with the creativity of the Beatles. And so I felt, at this point in 50 years, celebrating 50 years, what better way to honor them and to give back to the community by thanking my audience for the 50 years that they've let me into their hearts and homes. And what better way to do that by honoring my favorite band ever, the Beatles, as my inspiration for making music. So there you have it.
How tough is it? I mean, everyone knows you as an actor. How tough is it for you to go try to get out of that box? Because people don't understand the power of being on stage is so much different than having a camera on you. I mean, how much enjoyment and
Well,
difference that
I,
is.
I mean, you have to realize I've been doing this for 35 years. So it's not transitioning anymore. It's like, that's like asking somebody who's sexually transitioned, what's it like going through this transition? And it's like, well, I did the transition 20 years ago. So, yes, it was a very tough process. A lot of people didn't want it to happen. A lot of people tried to stop it from happening. A lot of people still continue to try and shut it down or dismiss it as a joke or try to downplay the you know, uh, creative energy that we put into each project. But that's okay because people want to minimize your successes because they feel jealous or they can't do it themselves or whatever it is, or they just want to hate just to be haters because they're unhappy people and it gives them some kind of pleasure to do that. But whatever the case is, for every one of those, there's 10 times that in fans. So, when you go out there and you play amphitheaters or arenas and there's 20 to 40,000 people at every show and they're screaming and they're singing along, that's what matters. So I don't really care what negative people have to say. I care about, turning people on and exciting them and having fun and sharing that entertainment and that experience with the live audience. So, I mean, listen, I've done 15 tours in the US, since I started touring. I've been all over the United States several times. I've done shows in Canada, shows in England, but I've never done a full blown tour outside the US. So that's one of my main goals right now is expanding to the rest of the world and getting my music out heavily in the rest of the world, as well as, kind of putting the feather in the cap and saying, okay, I got that one. Here's another goal down. First, the goal was like, can we get to the top 40 of Billboard? All right, got it. Now, can we get to the top 20 of Billboard? Okay, got it. Next will be, can we get a top 10? But it's always about achieving the next goal.
Music has changed over the last 30, 40 years. It used to be about album sales, and now we're dealing with downloads and everything else, but it's really about touring now. It's about getting in front of people in comparison to, this album went platinum and everything else like that. How important is it for you to get on the road?
Well, it's very important to get on the road, but at the same time, you get burnt out from doing the same stuff. So for me, it's always about setting goals and then making those goals happen. For example, one of my very first shows was like a sold out show at the Palace Theater, or it was my very first full length concert was at the Palace Theater in Los Angeles, which is now Avalon. But it's a 1,800 capacity, and I sold it out, and it was great. But those were just screaming fans who were coming to see, the teen actor, and see whatever he did. It didn't really matter as long as I danced and shook my butt. It was good. But I can't say the quality of music was very good in those days because I was really mostly doing cover songs and a few originals, which were, shady at best. They were haphazard, but we got it done. And then I went through the reality of like, okay, I'm going to go out there with a band. I'm going to really try and do this. And I can tell you, I went through my modest period of humility when I started performing with my band Truth Movement. I said, I'm going to take my name off of it. I want it to be taken seriously as a band. And so I created this band Truth Movement back in 1993, I believe it was. And that band put out 2 albums. And, I have to say, our very first shows, we were getting paid $150 $150 for a show, and I was happy to take it
Yeah.
because before that, all the shows I had done were free. When I was doing stuff as Corey Feldman, it was never a tour. As a solo act, it would just be one-off shows, and I would basically convince the promoter, like, "Hey, let me have the venue. You guys keep all the money. I don't really care. I just want to play." And that was how it started. And then it escalated from that to like, okay, here's my band. We're a serious band. Okay, $150. That's our stipend. We're going with it. And then that became 300. And then I remember the first time I got paid $1,000 check for performing, and I went, "Oh my God, I'm big time now. I'm getting paid $1,000 to perform music." So it's been a very, very slow and gradual growth. But today, I can say we've had 3 top 40 Billboard hits. I can say that, I've toured 15 times across the United States, starting in clubs, very small punk rock, rowdy, dirty, nasty clubs. Did that for many years. Worked my way up to bigger club venues, 1,000-seaters, 1,500-seaters. Worked all the way up to, small venues like, 2,000, 3,000. And the last tour we did was the arena tour where we're playing to 20,000, 40,000. So, it's crazy when, that first crowd that was 20,000 people, that was the crazy one. And that was at Riot Fest 2.5 years ago, where I did I did one performance for 60,000 people with my band Truth Movement. That was our final show of Truth Movement before we took a hiatus, which we're still on 10 years later. But we did one show, but that was very special because it was at the Boardwalk in Santa Cruz where we shot Lost Boys. It was on the 1-year anniversary of Corey Haim's death, and it was on the 20-year anniversary of the film's release. So it was a very special event, and we had like 60,000 people out there. It was crazy. But outside of that, I'd never, as kind of a pop artist, had that kind of crowd where they came out to actually listen to my music. And when we played Riot Fest and there was 20,000 people there, it blew my mind. Yeah, I didn't expect it. I literally, I was out there an hour before the show and there was nobody on the field. There was like 5 people on the field. And I was like, "Oh man, this is going to suck. It's going to be like 100 people because it's Saturday afternoon at 2:30 on the smallest stage." And within an hour, that place filled up to the brim. You couldn't fit another person in that field. And I was shocked. I was just completely shocked. And they're all mosh pitting and singing every word and chanting for the next song. And I mean, it was like, wow, how did this happen all of a sudden? So that pretty much prepared me for the Limp Bizkit tour where we played 20 to 40,000.
There's a lot of amazing things when I look at your history and everything. And you mentioned Corey and, the tragedies and everything else like that. I mean, you have survived so many things. I mean, I like to ask artists and creators, what do they pull from when they're having these tough times? What do they, when they're sad and they just don't know what's next? I mean, what do you go to? Where's your safe place that you go to when things are tough?
God.
Oh,
One word answer. It's a one word answer. My faith rests with God, and my strength rests with God. God has carried me through the toughest times, and is there for me during the toughest times, and inspires me to keep growing and continuing and moving forward, spreading His word through His will, and that's the way I see it.
It's amazing that very rarely will you see actors and creators, they'll thank God, at like events,
At the awards.
but
Yeah.
you really do, that's not where you should thank him. You should thank for helping you get up in the morning. And,
That's right.
And
That's right.
That's a tough
That's
thing.
right.
I noticed the Club 33 hat you're wearing.
Yeah. Disney.
We're out of Orlando, so I can appreciate the Club 33
Okay,
hat.
nice,
So I just wanted to give you that shout out to
Very
that one.
nice. Thank
Most
you,
people
thank
didn't
you.
notice it, but I did. So that's a hell of a thing.
Very
man.
cool. Yeah. Well, it's a special elite club and all that, elite. But I always enjoy the Disney experience. It's always a lot of fun. I've been a fan ever since, obviously working for Disney as a little kid, and my sister working for Disney as a little kid. So growing up around it all and all of that stuff. So I've had the rare pleasure of getting to visit Club 33. Although I didn't visit the one in Orlando. I've never been to that one. So I'll have
You
to
got
check that out.
you got the better one over there.
Oh, I
Yeah,
do. Okay, good,
Anaheim,
good.
you're good. You got the better
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But I
Okay.
guess the hard thing that people don't understand, because you mentioned the money earlier, and I get the benefit of doing stand up, and I don't even know how much they pay me, because that's not what I love. I love being on that stage, and I don't think people get that this isn't about an ego thing. This isn't about you going, hey, listen, I want to be this person or that person. It's about loving this action. It's love performing. It's love singing and
Yeah.
playing. And they don't get it. It's not about the money. So when you say $100 or 150, sometimes did they pay me? I don't even, I'm not even aware of that sometimes because I'm so grateful to be doing what I love.
Exactly. And that's how I felt all the way along. And then, when you start seeing the real numbers come in, you're like, oh, wow, I'm worth that now. That's great. So it's more of a surprise than an exciting point of view, but never an ego thing because it's not about ego. It's about how you can't have a huge ego and make great music. I don't think that's possible. Even as an actor, if you're too full of yourself, you're not going to be able to put on a great performance because you're not self-aware. And the true thing is, I'll tip you to something really powerful, which is in all of my travels. I do a thing on my Instagram. If you follow me on IG, it's CDog22. But if you follow me on IG, you'll see that I've been putting out this thing every Monday called the Legend Series Monday Memories. And Monday Memories is a series of all of the different legends that I've taken pictures with through the years. I've put out about 5 or 6 of those posts already. And each one features 10 to 20 legends. And the thing is, my experience has taught me the people who've been around the longest, the people who have the most solid careers, the people who have made, the biggest achievements that you expect to be the most ego driven, out of control, self indulgent, whatever, tend to be the nicest and most down to earth people. The thing is, it's people who the influencers or the new, the sparkling new, fresh off the charts, pop star or, the new reality star or whatever. Those are the people with the biggest egos. Those are the people that are most insecure because they feel like they have something to prove. So they put on this front that they're special and they think that they're special and they act that way until they get smacked down. And then they go, oh, I guess I'm not that special anymore.
Well, they were trained. They were trained. I mean, the hard thing is we grew up in an age where we didn't have to worry about likes and everything else like that. We had box office numbers, we had things like that, but we didn't need instant gratification off of everything we said. And that's the problem. Right. These people they're growing up with, oh, how many people like this video I just put? How many people like this song? Oh, a million people didn't respond to my comment. It's a terrible addiction, and I think it's definitely a mental health issue more than an ego issue with what we're living with.
Well, yeah, not only that, but the nastiness of it all. So many people out there that, literally go out of their way to just throw fire and throw heat, throw, flames on people and burn them up with their nasty comments. And it's like, that's not the intention of social media. We're not here to troll each other. We're not here to insult each other. We're not here to try and make each other feel crappy. We're here to build each other up, and we're here to share the common experience and be there to support and love each other. And the great thing about my social media platforms is, for the most part, that's what we do. Unfortunately, I get waves of bot attacks or troll attacks from the dark side who love to blast me with this stuff every time I put out a project. And, let them have their fun. If that's what, sells their tickets or that's what makes them money, then it's a pretty pathetic existence. But hey, if that's what you have to do is suck off the teat of real artists to get yourself out there, more power to you.
All right. Well, let me see. Where can we find out touring, where websites, whatever we can do to make sure we catch you when you're on the road?
Okay, well, right now we're not touring, and there's a specific reason for that, which is the fact that we've done 15 to 20 U.S. tours, and I'm just a bit fried on playing the U.S. for a while. But my big goal right now is to put together a world tour, which we're hoping to do towards the end of this year. I've got a lot of projects in the works, so not only do I have the kind of Beatles tribute EP that we're working on, I have another EP that I'm working on for myself. So I'm working on 2 of my own projects at the same time. One that's a classic rock project and one that's a dance project. Both of those should be released and expect to be released this year. On top of that, we're also putting out the first artist under my label that is not me, which is a wonderful, talented singer by the name of Adrian Sky. She's a singer, songwriter, incredible voice. She was on my band with the Limp Bizkit tour. She was a background singer on that tour. She did an incredible job for her first tour. So we've got all three of those coming out, but on top of it, we have a orchestral arrangement on this song, which is an 8-piece orchestra, which is incredible. It's the first time I've gotten to work with an orchestra, and we're doing more of that on this album, as well as first Dolby Atmos mix. So in the next few weeks, there'll be a Dolby Atmos mix of characters coming out, and also a groundbreaking video, which will be out in the next few weeks. So there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up. That's all I can say.
Well, I appreciate talking to me, Corey, and have a fantastic day and good fortune with everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. God bless you, man.